for Christmas.
I
Thank you
remember
for
you
being
talking about
so
that.
overachieving, I swear.
And then I went from that to here, and I have not had proper sustenance, which is entirely my bad because I just go, 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 Energizer Bunny. And so now I'm shoveling food
All
in my
right,
face.
less than a minute to
That
go,
is the
and
life
we're
of a
gonna.
therapist, by the way. In between sessions, you're gonna,
Mhm.
shovel food and, and things like that, and try and have time to pee before the next person comes in. So you're just getting trained for it now.
Basically, I think of every time I meet with my supervisor, and she's always like, "Are you okay if I have my
Okay,
lunch while we do this?" I'm like,
we
"Sure."
are live on YouTube, just so you know. All right, so I'm getting ready to launch.
We'll pause that conversation.
Mhm.
Come on. Yeah, I'm getting ready to launch GCPR, and then it will be opening credits after that. So here we go.
I'll give you the hair tie right off of my wrist. I'll turn it up if you play Taylor Swift. I'll gas you up when you're acting unhinged. If you're done, if you're pissed, I'll help you burn down a bridge. I'm an always got time for my girls, girl. Wherever you are in the world, girl, I'll be right there when you call me up. If you need to cry or wanna get drunk, I'll be your number one hype girl. I got your back in a fight, girl. Round after round, I'm always down. There ain't no doubt I'm a girl's girl. Yeah, there ain't no doubt I'm a girl's girl. Hey. Woo! Round after round, I'm always down. There ain't no doubt I'm a girl's girl.
Welcome to Hurricane Girls. I am Sheila Chappelle, and can everybody hear me okay?
Mhm.
Oh
Everybody
yeah.
hear me? Okay, good. Because sometimes putting on the radio station cuts my audio. But yes, that is our opener. We are Hurricane Girls. We are here on youtube.com at Hurricane Girls, also broadcasting now live on Ghost Claw Productions Radio, home of the Villains Guild, where all voices matter. And we are super excited to be here tonight. By the way, that opening theme music was Girls Girl by Haley Mae Campbell. It is our official theme song used by permission. So, by permission of the artist. So, thanks for being here. We're looking forward to a great show tonight. Going to talk a lot about women in medicine tonight and a few other topics that I'm sure will come up throughout the course of conversation. But I have to take care of just a little bit of business first, so that we can fulfill all of our obligations. We are. I do want to make a note about the Creator Accountability Network. We as the Hurricane Girls are in the process of joining the Creator Accountability Network. CAN's a nonprofit that is dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We're joining because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. Right now, myself, Abby, Alia, our producer, are completely credentialed. The other two you see here are in the process. I got to get Mary in on this. But if you feel any of our behavior has harmed someone, we want you to be able to know you can feel free to report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255, and they'll help us make it right and avoid repeating these mistakes in the future. CAN does also need volunteers from our communities to help with their work. So if you have any skills that you think that would be helpful, or time or desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. And most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. So help us build safer communities together. And we are very proud of being part of that group. We've got a lot coming up in the future of this podcast here. And I've been super busy today networking with people and trying to get some more talented. Spent my whole last weekend basically trying to talk to some people that you might know. We do have coming up next week incredible soul singer Miss Emily, and they will be they'll be talking about their tour that they're on right now. Jen Lennon's also going to be joining us again next week. We've met her before. She's the film composer from Knives and Skin. Um, After that, the week after that, we're going to have Ida Easter, the editor-in-chief of the Last Girls Club, and we're going to talk about that. Always like to have good authors and editors on the show just to talk about that. And on April the 1st, we will be welcoming Rabbi Kana to the show, aka That Rebel Rabbi. If you don't follow her on TikTok, you should do it. She's freaking amazing. And we like to get all kinds of different people. She's also my guild sister, so we interact here. And the week after that, from Party of Five and Dark Angel, we will be welcoming Jennifer Blanc Bean, who she's married to Kyle Reese from The Terminator, but that's not important. She's also a fabulous actress, and I got to meet her this past weekend and spend some time with her and get to know her and enjoy her. And so we got a lot of great guests coming up on the show. And we do want to wish everybody a happy Women's History Month. And we'll be talking about that later in the second half, as our own historian, Mary, has a bit to talk about here today. And we'll roll on into women in history. But right now, I would like to introduce to you a guest who is probably just as meaningful, probably more meaningful to me than just about any other guest we had on. I mean, yes, she's big shot nurse and like a VP of a hospital and stuff. And yes, we are going to talk a lot about women in medicine, especially want to honor and talk about your career. But she's also my biological sister, the one that I talk to. So here with us tonight, Rachel Kemp. Hey there, sis.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And, wasn't planning it totally, but my shirt says well-behaved women never make history. So perfect timing for
Yes,
Women's History Month.
I
Um,
love it. I love it. And yes, that was my accent at some point in time before I traded out. But yeah,
help it,
it's
it's
great to
baked
have you
in.
on. What's that?
I said, I can't help it. It's baked in.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just when I got to college, I was like, I've got to train this out, or I'll never have a career in radio or TV. And yeah, so here I am. Turns out the first movie I was in, I only had one line, so it didn't matter. And it was in Chinese.
There are no
But
small parts, only small actors.
very true, very true. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Rachel. Introduce yourself to my besties here, and let us know what you're doing.
Hey, Sheila's besties and everybody in the Hurricane Girls. Watched a few episodes of you guys. Really entertaining. So excited to be here.
Oh, now I have to know which ones they were.
Well, I had to watch April Age Away. Like, her
Yes.
TikToks are just my favorites, and her little red ladybug hat cracks me up every time. Um, so as Sheila said, I'm Rachel. I'm her sister. I'm 7 years younger than her, so younger sister by quite a little bit.
Mhm.
But we grew up in the same house and somehow had some of the same experiences and some that are really, really different.
Different.
And so, as she said, I work for a level one trauma center in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a registered nurse by background. I went into nursing almost as kind of a byproduct of our upbringing. So I never really knew what I wanted to do, and I never really had an example of a career that a woman could have. Because I'm sure you guys are all familiar with our background, but we were raised in a house where women were bred to raise children and serve men and, not really have careers. So in growing up, I knew the only thing I knew about what I wanted to do was that I never wanted to be dependent on a man for my well-being. So in looking for a career to have long term, my really only qualification was, can I always have a job that will pay the bills and support me no matter what? And so I was like, you know what? Everybody always needs nurses. So I decided to try nursing school and just absolutely fell in love with it. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories, and I love being able to get people through the worst times of their life. Um, I have always gravitated towards hospitals that serve underserved people. So I've worked in the what I call country club hospitals, and they just never spoke to me. But when I worked in my first urban hospital, small community where we saw a lot of homeless people, that was where I knew that I belonged, because I really just find a lot of fulfillment for caring for people that other people don't care to care for. I also, in being at the bedside in nursing, I saw a lot of things that needed to be fixed in healthcare. Who doesn't know that healthcare needs to be fixed? But a lot of things you can't fix from a bedside level. I never really felt like I had a big enough voice from that level to do what needed to be done. So I decided to go back to school, get my master's in health administration and nursing. I did that at a very young age, so I've been out of that since 2009.
And you're
And
back at it
so,
now, right?
yeah, got to leadership early on, when everybody kind of looked at me and was like, what do you think you know? And ran some surgery departments, rose in leadership, and now I'm serving as vice president for patient care for the Level 1 Trauma Center. Um, and my crazy self started my doctorate program yesterday. So going back to get my doctorate in executive leadership, to really just, I mean, now more than ever, I need to know how to impact change in healthcare.
I love that. And I just realized during that we're introducing you, but I have not yet introduced my co-hosts here. Let's not forget everybody. I'm Sheila Chappelle, America's ex-girlfriend here, but I also have with me my panel of friends, hosts here.
Former guest too.
Since Sim is going to
Did you
give
say
me
hosts or hosts? I missed that.
Potato,
Yes.
potato, right?
We are in different area codes. I should point that out.
I got hosts in different area codes for sure. And just for that, hi Sim, how are you? My favorite
Lovely,
licensed
living the dream.
therapist.
How are you?
Yeah, it's good. And then my other hoe over here, Abby Rosemarin, author of Year of Dating Myself, will be out in July from Simon and Schuster. I always like to plug that because I tell everybody about this book, honestly, because I truly think, and I was thinking about a friend of mine today and how it might have actually saved her life if she had read something like that or just something similar. So I can't wait to read it. And also, speaking of can't wait to read, and looking at her shirt here, Women Make History Better, the salty historian, Mary Bengtson here. We do not have a date on that book yet, but we're assured it's coming. And you can get the calendar.
Yes, yes. I'll bring it sometime so you can see it. It's amazing. It's one of the greatest things I've ever created. I'm really proud of it. So
I'm proud to have all of you here. We do, while we're taking a moment, I want to send shout outs to Hurricane Evie, who could not be here tonight, away on business in NYC, doing big shit. You know, just we just want you to know that while you're out there, we love you. And especially tonight for Hurricane Morgan, who is having some health struggles and who could not be here with us tonight. We just want to send all our love out to you, Momo. We love you and we miss you. And it's a big hole here left on the show when you're not here. Can't wait to see you back again. But now, having said all that, with all the introductions being made, y'all have at it. Let's ask some questions. I'm sure I know Mary's got a list here. I know Sim is over there just like, because believe it or not, at least these two women both work in hospitals here. So yeah, it's and I've stayed in one or two. But yeah, y'all let's talk. What do
Yeah.
y'all want to know about
Mary, I'll let you go first because you got the written list, and I can piggyback off that.
No, well, my first question, because I study women in history and it pisses me off, how do you work in the medical field in the current political climate as a woman without going insane or to prison?
You're assuming that she hasn't done either of those things.
I'm just saying, I can be a good alibi if you
I'm
need
just
it.
saying.
She was
Yeah,
right
I'm-
here. She was right here with me and Luigi
Yeah.
Mangione. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll give you
is-
the benefit of the doubt that you're sane and have not gone to prison.
That's the
Right,
last mention of Luigi in a healthcare conversation. So
Yes,
just like,
please.
Sane is a
yeah.
little questionable. Jail is a no-go if I want to keep my job. So, um, it is really hard. And, just so I'm really HR friendly right now, I'm going to say my little disclaimer. All of these opinions are mine alone, and I do not speak for my organization. So let me put that out there in the world just in case somebody disagrees with something I say and they watch this video and they send it to my boss.
And anything we say has got fuck all to do with her. So
That's right.
yeah.
But I think the hardest thing for me was the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and especially in living in a red state and working in a critical access hospital. I will say I am extremely proud of my organization because the first thing that my organization did was sit down with our legal team and figure out exactly how we could still serve women to the fullest extent of being able to provide abortion care and care that they needed to live. And I don't think that I could work for an organization that didn't do something like that. And as a result, you see these stories on the news, and I've seen them in real life where women are transferred from other facilities by doctors who don't want to go to those lengths when they know that they don't have viable pregnancies and when they know that these people are going to die if they don't receive care that requires a technical abortion. And they haven't gotten there in time every time. And it just is absolutely heartbreaking to me. And it's easy to say, let me just give up and I don't know if I can do this. But if I'm not there, then that's one less voice that is advocating for people who need abortion care, for people who need gender affirming care, for people who need those kinds of things that this current administration is trying to ban. But it's so hard, and I'm thankful to live in the bluest dot in a red state. Memphis is one of the more
Memphis, Tennessee.
progressive. Yes. Memphis is one of the more, progressive, inclusive, and liberal cities in the South. So there's a little cushion there, but not a lot. You can go about 5 minutes to either direction and run into all the red hats. So
That's where our parents live. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Speaking of red hats.
Yeah, Memphis. I can speak to that because Memphis is where I came out, and Memphis is where I made my debut. As a trans woman, and I was welcomed with open arms, especially in the queer community there. So I miss my city honestly a lot. This city sucks.
It's so much
But
fun.
yeah, Memphis is it is so much fun, but it is pretty lucky because you've got the rest of Tennessee over here on the east, and you got Arkansas over there in the west, and then you've got Mississippi directly down south.
Yeah.
So it's a whole shit ton of fuck around Memphis. And just, like, yeah, I'm glad you're there too. But, that is also a strongly populated city with a lot of population that needs to have these critical services. And
100%.
yeah, I mean, all of the money moved out of town.
Yeah.
So you're definitely serving. You're doing the Lord's work over there. Serving.
One of them boards, or whatever they
Yeah,
are.
you're doing the goddess's pleasure.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I do like that you said that you're not vacating the space, because that's something I've been holding the line on Instagram. That's like a huge thing. But somebody had said, and it really registered with me, that if you vacate the space from the truth, you just let it be filled with lies. So I
Absolutely.
think it's amazing to hold the line. And then I have one more follow-up. So in sorry, they said talk last week, so I'm talking.
Come on.
No one's stopping you but you, honey. You go right
Listen,
ahead.
So,
just so you know, Mary's the newest addition to our show, and she hasn't realized yet that it's her show. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely take the reins, run with it. We don't give a fuck. We love you.
thank you. I said we love you too. Yeah, it's more than one. It's my multiple personalities. Okay. But
Mm.
so with you are very high up in the organization, so do you ever feel like you have to remove yourself from your femininity in order to be taken seriously at that level?
I honestly think that is the wonderful part of nursing. Nursing is such a female-driven career. It is one of the only careers that I feel like men are almost, I will tell you, the only two jobs I have ever lost were to men, and they were obviously less qualified. But in nursing, the only two jobs that I was ever not hired for, which were both promotional opportunities, were both men. And so I think that's funny. That they are a minority and we still lose jobs to them. And so I feel like the voice of women is heard greater in nursing than, say, like if you're in a healthcare organization, if you've got a CFO or a COO that's a woman, it's number one, more rare. Usually those operations positions, CEO positions are almost always men. Um, but you do often see the senior leaders of nursing are often female. And it's just because there are a lot of female nurses. I have had a mixed experience when it comes to different organizations across this city, even in how the respect for nursing as a profession is upheld. Again, the organization I work for now is just absolutely wonderful in their respect for nursing and their respect for how nursing keeps the whole hospital running. Like, literally, if all the nurses went home, no patients would get taken care of. There would be nobody to give the medicine, nobody to give the blood, nobody to make sure people aren't dying in their bed. And so that respect is not something that I have seen in every hospital that I've worked at. I'm lucky to be in an organization now that does respect that.
Yeah, and from the comments here, I just want to say hey to John Quia, say hey to Vampires to Die For, and our executive producer, Alia Pierce, is in the comments as well. So the gang's all here. I mean, I felt that when you talked about, hearing about men getting promoted over women, because I've been talking about this a lot lately on TikTok and in the lives there, about how trans women have a very unique perspective on the male privilege because we had it before. Like we used to have it, and let me tell you, as soon as you transition, the moment you put on the eye makeup, yeet, 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 it's gone. They'll be like, they'll tell you you're not a man, but they'll treat you like a woman this all the same. And then to see it, like even in my own position, I know I've been passed over for jobs that men who are far. I have no business working in the job I am. I'm extremely overqualified. I've done more than any of those folks in there will ever do, but I get passed over constantly for things like that. I'm lucky to be at the position that I am. And to hear, as I remember a couple of those times when you got passed over, and I know the rage that sometimes can, because you're like, I worked for this, I earned this, and I'm not getting this. That's got to be hard.
My toxic trait, though, is that I don't stick around after. So, call it a toxic trait, but I know my own worth. And so, I don't understand how I had this much self confidence baked into me at some point. I don't know where it came from, but I don't believe that I can fail. It's kind of weird, but I don't.
They took all of my self-confidence and put it in you. That's what it was.
I just always knew that I could do it. So if people don't see that in me, I don't often stick around in places where I'm not valued. So if I'm not valued, I will find someone who will.
I don't think that's toxic, honestly.
Yeah, it's
I don't
not.
know. What do you girls think? I mean,
See, it's
you know,
only
I
toxic
want
in
to
a
learn
soc-
that.
it's like only toxic in a society that benefits from women being boundaryless and no self-worth. And oh, I guess I'll doormat for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I
right.
really do think it came from our upbringing, though, too, because I was always like, I guess I was just like a junior feminist. I remember being in church in Sunday school and pushing back every time they would talk about being submissive to men and things like that. And I was like, why? Like, why would I lower myself below somebody else just because he has a penis? Like,
Yeah,
cares?
sorry.
Like, who cares? And so I distinctly remember being in Sunday school where our father was teaching the class. Um, and we
I
were
just got secondhand boredom from that. Yeah.
really think the topic was something about biblical divorce or something, and
Mm.
talking about the only reasons you could ever divorce your husband. And so I'm sitting there in the room with my dad, and I looked at him and I said, so you're telling me that if I'm married to a guy and he beats me, that I am not supposed to divorce him? So okay, your child, your daughter is sitting there asking you if you think she should leave a future husband if he beats you. And all he could say was he kind of got real quiet and then he said, well, if they're beating you, they're probably committing adultery too. And it was,
What?
you know,
I mean, I could totally hear him saying that, y'all. We share the same father. If you're just joining us, I could totally hear that. But yeah, that's like, oh, that's a fucking twisted reasoning there. Like,
why it took both of us so long to deconstruct from Christianity, I'm sure.
right?
I-
I was different in that regard, but yeah.
You're different, definitely.
It's okay to fuck. It's okay to beat you, but don't fuck somebody else. Okay.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Right,
You
right.
have to draw the line somewhere.
I love conservative Christian values. We
Right.
It's always, yeah, I was talking to somebody just tangentially here. I was talking to somebody in the lab before this, and they were talking about the unforgivable sin, which was blaspheming the Holy Spirit. I was like, okay, why should I worry about being judged by a God who thinks that blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is a worse sin than raping a child? Because you can be forgiven for that one really hella easy in these churches. Like, yeah, if you've ever sexually assaulted a child, all you have to do is be like, you know what, I super swear, I'm sorry. Okay, please lead this church. And then blaspheming the Holy Spirit, no, hell, You're done. You're cooked. So I just like to tell those people, hey, you know what? Fuck the Holy Spirit, and be like, okay, can't save me now. Sorry. Anyway, I just went on a tangent there, but yes, truly, when you talk about growing up in such a restrictive environment, especially towards women, especially, but honestly towards men too. Men get fucked by it, but in ways that ultimately benefit them. But whereas women get fucked by it in ways that lead to subjugation, to uh, dimming their light, to literally setting themselves on fire to keep their men warm. And that, being able to push back on that from an early age must have been, number one, it must have been hella frustrating. And number two, it must have been actually kind of empowering, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, but there's a reason why I'm not the favorite child, and it's because I've never learned to shut up when I don't agree with things.
Right.
Who does that
Um,
sound like?
Right?
I tried. Listen, honestly, I tried my whole life to fit this fabulous peg into that square hole.
Was
I
it about pegging?
tried.
I think he would
That
spontaneously combust if you tried to keep things inside like that.
that's 100% true, because it was so funny when Sheila came out to me. She was incredibly nervous, obviously, but we were talking through text, and
I still have the
um,
conversation. Say,
yeah, when she told me that she was trans, said, I said, "Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense to me." Like, because we didn't really have that close of a relationship growing up, because the other thing that you need to know about me is, like, I respond very um, closely to people who are their authentic and genuine self. And when I feel like somebody is being fake or disingenuous, like, I am a person that kind of almost shrinks back a little bit, because I have a level of trust that I always wonder what people are hiding. And I've always been kind of intuitive to that kind of thing. And so the thing I always felt about Sheila growing up was, like, Sheila was always looking around, like, when she would say something, like, looking around for approval almost. And it felt like she was constantly looking for that approval, but was afraid to be who she was. And I just didn't know what that was.
mhm.
So when she told me that she was trans, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Now I understand why it always felt like I didn't know who you were." And our relationship since then has flourished incredibly, because, like, she's her authentic self now. Like, there is none of that, you know,
None of that fake preacher boy bullshit.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do think that you tried when we were growing up to speak out about things a lot, but with being the oldest, you got beat down. Like, you almost paved the way for me to be able to say whatever it was that I wanted to.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I guarantee you didn't get hit with the 2x4s.
no.
No, that's what happened to me. As everything I said that was wrong would either be physical retribution or the insane mental beatdown, the hours and hours long beat. Y'all, being a pastor's kid sucks because they never shut the fuck up. Honestly, it's like lecture this, lecture that. I'm like, okay, wrap it up and let's get to the altar call already. I mean,
Because that was the only way
right.
that it would stop, is if you repented
Yeah,
publicly.
right. And
Yeah.
even then, sometimes it still carried on like, you know, some things weren't let go of so easily and just um it was really hard to be authentic during that time. Especially since I didn't quite understand it. Like,
Mm,
transgender wasn't a word that
mm-mm.
we knew back in the 90s. Um I knew when I was 17 and went to college, I knew there was something. I had a name. I was Sheila, and I was there that in online spaces there at my little small culty Christian conservative college that
Yep.
you also started at, and then you were just like, fuck that.
I ran away from that so fast. So I only went to that college because I was told if I didn't go there, I wouldn't have a car. So I didn't want to go there. Um, and so I really used the fact that they didn't have a nursing program to get, I was like, I can't stay here or I can't get the appropriate education. Um,
And as I recall, you ultimately were like, you know what, I'm just gonna get my own fucking car.
I did.
Hmm.
Yeah, the last time, but that was after I left nursing school because they kept paying for me a car. And then I don't remember what it was that they wanted me to do. And they
It
told me that if
was
I
it was
didn't
somebody
do
you were dating, as I recall.
maybe, I don't even
Yeah.
remember. I really don't remember what it was. Or either it might have been when I wanted to move out of Tabitha's apartment. That's what it was. So I wanted to move out of our middle sister's apartment. I was living with her, and I wanted to move out with my best friend. And so they told me if I did that, because Tabitha wanted me to stay to help pay her bills, which is not my responsibility.
Guess
Um,
guess who got stuck with that one afterwards?
so they told me that if I left and moved in with my best friend, that they would take my car. And so I went again because this is who I am. I drove straight to a dealership. I bought my own damn car and I told them where to pick the keys up. So I just
Like even back then, I was like, boss bitch move. Okay. I was low key just like, yes, queen. Yes.
I don't know how to be anyway but obstinate sometimes.
Yeah, this was the big difference I think between you and me is I was the one that was trying so hard to set myself on fire to keep them warm. And you were just like, you know what, build your own goddamn fire, build your own goddamn fire pit, leave me the fuck out of it. I'm going to go do my thing. And I
Yeah.
always respected that.
I've never been a people pleaser, and I think that's what it is. Like, some of my friends, we were at dinner one night, and they were like, "How do you just give absolutely zero shits what anybody thinks about you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just don't." Like, as long as I'm happy with myself, then that's, to me, that's really all that matters. And the things that make me happy with myself is treating other people well. And I just feel like as long as I'm doing that, then I really just don't care what other people think.
I like that. And I tried to embody that. And I tend to do a good job of it most times. There I still have a few people who can get to me, but not very many.
You've come a long way, sister.
So yeah, I mean, just coming up and being yourself, like that's just something that's so antithetical to the concept of a woman, even in today's society. And we've got people who, we got sisters doing it for themselves right here on this panel. Um, you know, for one reason or another. I mean, Abby's writing has, I guess the book is finalized now, right?
Oh yeah, finalized all the doodads, graphics, all that. It's all good. It's all set to print.
Yeah, so I mean, the concept of her book is the year of dating myself. We talk about this a lot, and it's this whole concept there too of not giving a fuck of what a man does in your life here, but doing things for ourselves. And I think beyond the realm of dating, your book goes far beyond just dating. I think there's impact in that and just a whole entire life. And we've got Mary writing the history of women down here, telling the stories that she had never heard of and wouldn't be surprised if we did either, and telling those stories and keeping that history alive. And we've got Sim, who's throwing her body and sanity all over the line to make sure that people are walking home feeling whole, as a therapist. So, like, there is so much ownership ownership being taken by the women in this room that um I is being challenged right now, I think. And the men aren't taking it well, and whatever passes for men in the Casablanca up there, um they're not taking it well either. What do y'all think about that? Like, where's that going?
The hell in a handbasket?
Right. Like, I have to admit that I have the option of going back. I mean, granted, some things would be a little bit more difficult to be rid of, but like, I at least have the option to hide. You all don't. Um, I mean, that's what scares me, and like my daughters, your daughters, um, what they're going to have to be faced with, if this administration does what it wants to do and remains unchecked.
Yeah,
So,
it's terrifying. Um,
mm,
it's terrifying.
I'm
Yeah, I mean, I
genuinely,
think
yeah.
right now the problem is that, we're going down a rabbit hole and we're in a free fall and we don't know where the bottom is, and there's no one around going, "Hey, wait, I'm going to stop and I'm going to fix this." Those checks and balances that we were taught about in civics class and, ninth and 10th grade, they're not kicking in. We don't have anybody loud and in charge saying consistently, "No, no, this fuck shit needs to stop." You know, and it just so I think it's really left a lot of people just wondering, like, how bad is this going to get? And while we don't want the answer, we don't want to know how bad it's going to get. We really kind of need to know where this is going so we can fight it.
I mean, I have read The Handmaid's Tale. I know where it can go.
And
Right. Oh,
Project
for sure.
2025.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Project 25, but also,
Right.
1984, A Brave New World. I mean, we've been down this road before, and it just, but we have very selective memory when it comes to those things,
I
and
mean, and outside of fictional works, you think about the Salem witch trials where they
I
burned.
mentioned that just today to somebody.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Dude, just Iran in the
and
1970s.
Yeah, and just with the Salem witch trials, there were no burnings in America.
Mm.
Well,
They
It
were
was
crushed, they were
just
hung.
they were drowned.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
they were drowned, crushed, hung, but they
Yeah.
were never burned. I mean, why go to that extreme when you've got rocks to crush them with?
Right.
And as the resident New Englander here, I fully recommend first off avoiding Salem, Massachusetts, just in general. It's an overcrowded, touristy hellhole. And also in Danvers, Massachusetts, which is actually where the Salem witch trials actually happened. Salem Village eventually got split into two towns. In Danvers, there is a very beautiful memorial that actually takes the Salem witch trials seriously. They don't turn into a kitschy souvenir thing that, again, pisses me off.
Yeah.
But it's I've had a chance to go to that memorial. It's very like if it doesn't grip your heart, I check your pulse, because it really just reminds you of the gravity of what had happened, and that hysteria, if you will, which I do hate that word because that gets used on us constantly.
Right, because
But
history, yeah.
It was like male hysteria this time. I mean,
Right.
and I really
That's
think that's what
emotional.
exactly.
Right.
And
Right.
that's like what I think about this current administration is like all the women are too emotional. Like that man cries every other day about somebody calling him a name.
God, the
Like,
pants shitting toddler.
like it is
Yes.
just ridiculous the amount of male hysteria that is going on.
I just want to point to the comments here on the YouTube channel right now. My brother Dave the Viking is on there saying, ladies, that he has a friend in Virginia offering weapons training for women free of charge. So
That's
if
awesome.
you want to know anything more about that, maybe if you go into the YouTube comments, follow Dave the Viking. They can. They're one of my trusted people. I don't trust too many men, and he made the cut. So yeah, I
We
trust
I
him.
follow. Yeah, I
actually
follow him. He's pretty
we
good people.
We were actually talking about something similar that was started in Memphis recently. So there is now, I don't know if the ones of you that aren't or from around this area heard the story about Eliza Fletcher, who was the young mom that went running in her neighborhood and was attacked and grabbed and killed. And so one of her close friends runs a self-defense, like one of those martial arts gyms, and he provides a class once a week for women, and for only for women it's free. Because his goal now is to make sure that every woman who could be future attacked would know how to protect themselves. So there are some great men that are still out there.
Right. And apparently the name of this person is Derek Summers, who's a devout activist and father of an autistic child. This is, yeah, if you want to know more about it, check Dave in the YouTube comments. That's definitely a great resource, and thanks for providing that. I bought a gun the day after motherfucker got elected. I was like, no, I've been wanting to get one, but I never really thought, who needs it? I'm also being trans, I'm a suicide risk. So, just having one around was a little daunting, but as soon as he won, I was like, no. And now in the cute little Kate Spade bag that this person bought for me one Christmas, I'm constantly ready for somebody to come after me. But yeah, I think protecting yourself, whether that means mixed martial arts, whether that means arming yourself, is definitely something we as women should look for. And I know in days past we've been able to just be like, well, there's no such thing as good guys with guns. Fuck that. There was plenty of good guys with guns killing the shit out of Nazis in World War II. Plenty of good girls with guns too. We talked about the women snipers last week, and how badass they were. But, just be ready to defend ourselves, I think is important. And we've made quite the leap here from talking about women in medicine to women
With guns.
women with guns, But yeah, I
They
mean,
lead
I
to the
think it's all
medical
a
field.
continuum.
Exactly.
Right.
They send
We're-
business. They send the business.
Yeah,
over.
we
We're
see
bringing
a
them to their
lot of
nurses.
those. We see a lot of
Exactly.
gunshot wounds. So
Job security.
Yes. I mean, we're supporting the ammo industry.
Exactly.
I mean, and supporting the emergency rooms and the trauma centers. So if you know a med student who needs to get a little bit of practice and get a couple of stitches in, find a perp. Stand your ground. He was coming right for me. You didn't get that. You didn't hear that here. And definitely
Nope.
Rachel didn't say it.
Nope.
definitely
I
did.
heard nothing.
Yeah.
I think that Abby and I could write you an alibi anyway. So
Oh yeah, what we got? It's
we're good.
Right.
We got this.
Yeah. Sim, you could actually get it on the hospital letterhead, maybe. I
got you.
Just kidding.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, do you find I know in nursing it's a little different, but with doctors, do you find a sort of toxic culture with doctors, with being kind of a boys' club?
It depends on the specialty. And so I come from a surgery background. I started my career in nursing and surgery, and it always suited me really well because surgeons can be really big assholes, and I've never been afraid of that. So there have been instances where I have literally been standing in the middle of a surgery hallway, nose to nose with a male surgeon who was telling me what I was going to do, and I was telling them, no, I'm not. So I've met my fair share of toxic doctors. However, I do think as a profession, they have put a lot of things into place since I started in nursing that expects better behavior from doctors. I've seen doctors sent to anger management classes, and most hospitals, there is a no tolerance policy for that kind of workplace violence. We've got enough workplace violence with, patients who feel like they can really treat nurses any kind of way. I know there's been multiple nurses over the last few weeks in the news, just absolutely with the shit beat out of them. And that is a huge problem in nursing. I mean, even in Tennessee, it is a felony to assault a nurse, but it's really, really hard to prosecute. So, is that helpful that it's a felony if nobody's afraid of it? So, I think, we've seen a lot of improvement from the doctor side, and we've seen an uptick in violence against nurses from the patient side.
I yeah, I can only imagine, like, because you can control people who you're employed, but the people you're serving, you're very much at the whim of their insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah. And I think,
really truly, sorry, Sam, go
no, no, I
ahead.
didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Really truly, just the fact that you started in surgery and the fact that you could not even see blood as a child. Like, you, like, any side of blood is like, bleh. It's like,
Yeah.
bleh. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, I was just gonna say I work at a psychiatric hospital, and I worked in child psych for about 15 years, and now I work in adult psych, as a therapist. But even before, like, I wanted to kind of comment on some of the things that you had said. Like, even before I started my own clinical experience, my mom, she's retired now, but she was a doctor with specialty in internal medicine. So like, and when she went through med school, this was back, she graduated in 85. So she was one of the only women in the class, in the class, that graduating class. So it was a very real thing for women to be represented at that time. And so, I watched her grow up, growing up, I watched that determination, for her to be in that field for a lot of the reasons you talked about too. Like, she wanted to be able to have a career where she knew she could always put food on the table. She always would have a job, and she did that. But the byproduct also, with picking up medical knowledge here and there from her, as well as other members of my family that are also in the medical community. Um, I learned very well. I learned very early on, treat the nurses nice and you're going to have a great experience in a hospital. You treat the nurses like crap, you might as well quit right now because
You
it's
might
not
as
going to end
well.
well for you.
Mhm.
Like, so when I first started my clinical experience as an intern at the hospital that I worked at for about 15 years, I instantly like made friends with all the nurses and was like, and cool. And the doctors, yeah, in psychiatry, like my experience was it was a boys club, for a while, and that and and that didn't change really during the time I was there, and you talked about accountability for the doctors, and I hope that's true culturally, as a hospital culture in healthcare overall. I didn't see that as much in my hospital. We had doctors there that were kind of verbally abusive to the nurses, to the techs, to the therapists, and things like that, and they weren't held accountable. And that's frustrating to see that in healthcare. Not, it's one thing when we see it from the patients, right? Like you talked about, it's hard enough to get to a point where you can press charges because, even though hypothetically it is a felony to assault a healthcare worker, you have the hospital administration typically saying, no, no, don't press charges against the patient, and all those things. So it makes it really difficult, because the hospitals don't want to do that. But then you have the infighting, with the doctors, and there's not a safe way to, retaliate against that. Um,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I will tell you, as a hospital administrator, I will call the police for them. So, it really is, I think, a shift in culture, because we harp on the patient experience all the time, but my nurses know, and this is I feel a reason I've been so successful in my career is like I promised myself I would never forget what it was like to be a bedside nurse. So I will never ask them to do something that I wouldn't do. And if somebody beats the shit out of me, I'm calling.
Right.
And so I will support them in the exact same way. We do see a rougher clientele sometimes at my hospital. I mean, we get the gang fights where we may have both the shooter and the person who was shot. And we are very mindful about putting strong security plans in place to keep our staff safe. We can't keep them safe 100% of the time,
Right.
but we also offer them every single employee is required to take a workplace violence and de-escalation class. We require that of all of our nurses and all of our PCAs, anyone who has front-facing patient interaction. And we offer all of our ER staff and those that are in more critical situations, we offer them the actual hands-on defensive CPI training. So
Yeah,
again,
that's what we used in Psych 2 with CPI.
yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. And I'm proud to work for an organization that does say, hey, we're going to stand up and we're going to say, yes, you have a right to be safe at work, because it is true. Not every organization feels that way.
Well, I'm glad yours does.
Yes.
That's, yeah. But every time I went there, I always felt like it was a safe place. It was one of the first places giving out the C19 vaccine, which is where I got mine. And, just going into a place, working in a place where fuck shit can happen. Like when I was just out of college, I did crisis work because I got a psychology degree because I thought that would help me figure out how to fix myself. It's cheaper than therapy.
FYI, that's my therapist went to school too, to figure our own shit out. So it's the same thing.
So yeah, some of us go to school about it. Some of us write books about it. Some of us just take 40 years and then all of a sudden explode in a fury of transness. But it's
some of us see a therapist.
right. That probably should have been my first go-to, but after being there, getting my psych degree, and I got into crisis response. I was going through some of these hospitals in Middle Tennessee, and just some of the shit that exploded while I was there. Like I would be there, and there would be somebody strung out on meth. Meth is real big in Tennessee, or was at the time, and then they'd just be tied down to the bed, but literally just with superhuman force start slamming their head repeatedly into the wall. And just what do you do at that point in time? You can't prevent that because there are going to be people. There are going to be not well people there. But yeah, I like that I like that you are going to be, they're going to be like, call Rachel, and Rachel's going to be like 911, and that's important. We're at the top of the hour here, so I do want to go ahead and station identify. We are here on gcpr.live and hurricane.com at YouTube Girls. We are YouTube Girls. Hurricane Girls. That's hold on. Yes, that's the name of the show. Let's see, read my tattoo here. Yeah. Hurricane Girls. Okay. We are here. We are the Hurricane Girls. We are the daughters of darkness, the sisters of rage. We are the goddesses curse upon mediocre men and nature's happy little accidents. I am Hurricane Sheila Chappelle, America's ex-girlfriend. And we have with me tonight Hurricane Sim, Hurricane Abby, and Hurricane Mary. We would do again want to send out our wishes to Morgan tonight as you recover. We miss you, we love you, and we're pulling for you, and your sisters are here for you anytime any fucking time. And we got a lot to look forward to on the show. If you're just joining us, you might have missed what's coming up on the show next week. You don't want to miss next week. Next week is going to be so fucking fantastic because we're going to have at least two great musicians on the show. We're going to have with us Jen Lennon back again. She's a film composer and a Celtic singer, and she's going to be here as part of the panel as a recurring hurricane girl. So this is what happens, Rachel. People guest on this show, and then they don't leave. Yeah, Sim is the only original. Sim is not even original. Sim was a fan first. Yes.
True.
Yeah, it was me, Barbie, and Claire at first, and then I asked Sim, "Do you want to be a hurricane girl?" She's like, "Are you? Is that a real question?"
Exactly what I said, I think.
Yeah, Abby and Mary have, of course, been featured guests before, and we love them, and they're our besties, so they stay. But next week, Miss Emily. If you have not gone to themissemily.com, sampled some of her soulful sounds, you really owe it to yourself. And we'll check out a clip from her at the end of the show today so that you'll get your appetite set for next week. Then the week after that, Ida Easter, editor-in-chief of The Last Girls Club, and one of Mary's heroes here. I'm anxious to meet her and get to know her. Get to read over some of the stuff that's been published on that website. And then the week after that, on April the 1st, promise it's not April Fool's show, we have Rabbi Kana, that rebel rabbi, who is a good friend of mine and who's going to talk to us a little bit about how she embodies her Jewish faith in a progressive way that addresses things here, the wrongs of the world. And she's gonna be amazing to talk to. Every time I listen to her, I learn something new. And I'm not even of Abrahamic faith. So, and then the week after that, Jennifer Blanc Bean also starred on Party of Five. She was Bailey Salinger's girlfriend, and Dark Angel as Kendra, one of Jessica Alba's ride or dies there. It was a great time meeting her this past weekend. Can't wait to talk to her here on this show. We have a lot more that I can't tell you about yet because we don't have a lockdown on it yet, but there's some big names that are coming up, and my wish list that I'm making is getting longer, and I'm being ambitious about it. If I see a woman that I would like to have on our show, I'm jotting it down. I'm going to get to it. I have the whole day tomorrow to do it. I'm going to be sending out emails. So there may be some new announcements coming up soon. If you would like to subscribe to our Patreon, go to patreon.com/hurricane girls. Want to welcome Old Gamer Guy to Patreon. We have our first subscriber. Very happy about that. Thank you, Abby. And yeah, that's all coming up with Hurricane Girls. And it is Women's History Month this month. And just like we did last month with Black History Month, we're focusing on some women's stories. And who better to tell the history of women than our very own salty historian? Mary, take it away. I know you got something good for us.
Oh, I do. And just because they tried to take it off the calendar doesn't mean it doesn't exist. They've erased us from the books. They're not going to erase us from anything else. Alrighty, so for this week, I thought we'd talk about a few historical women who've set the bar for saying, fuck your feelings. And we should really pay attention to their examples. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's start with the Chung sisters, Trak and Nhi. They were two badass Vietnamese women who lived in the 1st century CE. At that time, China wanted to erase everything Vietnamese. So just like all colonizers, they followed the recipe: destroy the language, destroy the education, destroy the culture, and break a nation's spirit. Except the Chinese underestimated Vietnamese women. I've said this before, but I'm pretty sure the reason we don't hear about more things like women serial killers is 100% because men think we're too weak or just don't have it in us. Y'all just let us get away with shit, and I thank you for that so much. Anyways. The sisters came from an aristocratic family and were raised with a deep sense of nationalism and bravery. And their mom was pretty badass too, because she taught her daughters in the ways of Kung Fu, and they weren't afraid to use it. I wasn't exaggerating the badass shit. So when Troc was about 19, she got hitched, and the relationship was largely happy until China appointed Tho Dinh as governor in Vietnam. All accounts, Chinese and Vietnamese, said he was greedy, cruel, and a bastard. He demanded bribes on top of crippling taxes. He forced people to work themselves nearly to death simply to afford food. I promise I'm not talking about 2025. The Chung sisters and their family had already been protesting that cockbagged shit. So in retribution, he killed Troc's husband and hung his body at the gates to discourage others from bitching about him. He'd meant to make the Vietnamese feel weak. Instead, he lit the fire of rebellion, though a lot of men sat by and did fuck all. It's okay. The sisters showed all of them why women don't need men. They rose an army, 80,000 strong, at least 36 of their generals, women, including their mom. And they were coming for Tho Dinh. As they advanced, they liberated 65 towns. And rather than facing his consequences, Tho Dinh ran back to China like the little bitch he was. Now remember, Troc and Nhi came from an aristocratic family, so after driving out the cockbag, they became monarchs and began restoring Vietnam to its former glory. Among other things, they abolished taxes, which is exactly how you know I'm not talking about 2025. Anyway, for about 3 years, life was good, as has been historically proven true in most cases when things are run by women. Also, for those 3 years, the Chinese were preparing. The emperor saw the sisters as barbarians because they weren't Chinese, duh. And he couldn't have barbarians smudging his perfect image. So he sent his top general to convince them to stand down. Yeah, but the sisters basically said, fuck your feelings, and launched a surprise attack on the general. They were winning for a while. The problem was that his army was 200,000 and theirs was 80. It didn't take long for the sisters to realize the rebellion would fall. And the most common story is that the sisters' forces scattered in fear while the sisters and their generals stood fearless, fighting until they could no longer. They would die with honor, either at the end of a sword or by their own hand. The battle was all but lost, and the sisters knew they would be trophies for the Chinese emperor, so they denied him that glory and threw themselves from a cliff into the river. Despite their valorous efforts and their ultimate sacrifice, China ruled Vietnam for several more centuries. But the sisters had set the stage for future rebellion. Many say if not for them, there would be no Vietnam. And today they're honored as national heroes. But a 15th century poem sums it all up nicely. All the male heroes bowed their heads in submission. Only the two sisters stood up to avenge the country. Oh, but there's more where that shit came from. Fucking duh. How about a woman called Nagano Takeko? She lived in the mid-19th century and was another one who caught dudes off guard by leading an army of women. So you've heard of the samurai. Back in feudal Japan, women who came from samurai families were also trained martial arts, weaponry, and warfare. They were the onabukesha, quite literally warrior women. As an aside, dudes like to say we don't stand a chance against a guy with a longer reach. Okay. The onabukesha were trained to use a weapon called the naginata. Start again. Not meant for close combat, but it gave them the longer reach men worry about, and dudes met a blade before they could think about stepping closer. Nakano-san was born in what is now Tokyo, also to a noble family. Her family was loyal to the Tokugawa, who were backed by the samurai. Nakano-san was trained in martial arts from the age of 6, and by the time she was a teenager, it said she was an expert with the naginata. But her dad made sure she was book smart too, because he was a smart man and knew a sharp mind is more dangerous than any blade, especially when it's wielded by a woman. In the 1860s, Nakano-san was teaching beside her sensei, but it wasn't just teaching. She also caught peeping toms who thought it was a good idea to hang out around the women's showers. Let's just say you did not want to meet Nakano-san under those circumstances, or her naginata. February 1868, the Imperials were actively wiping out anyone who didn't support them. By fall of that year, they were outside the gates of her town, and forces met them on the Yanagi Bridge, heavily outnumbered by the Imperial Army, and decided to surrender. Yeah, but Nagano-san said, fuck your feelings. She was no man. She rallied her own army, all women, including her little sister, and they rode out into the fray, ordering the gates closed behind them. The enemy kept fighting until they realized the samurai they were facing were actually women. So, of course, they started thinking with their little heads and got to see firsthand why that's fucking dumb. The women took their opening. Their naginatas flashed in the sunlight, and men fell. Nakano-san had taken out at least 5 before the enemy remembered they had firearms. Nakano-san was struck in the chest, and as she lay dying, she begged her sister to take her head. She would not be desecrated by the Imperials. Her sister wrapped the head in cloth and ran. Nakano-san received a hero's burial, and another emperor was denied glory. Today, Nakano-san is honored as a national hero and is remembered as the samurai who refused to die quietly. But I got another one. It's not only young women who stand up to defend what they love. Fucking duh. And Isabel Rosado, better known as Doña Isabelita, yeah, she stood up for Puerto Rico. There is so much to her that I please everyone who is listening, go look her up from the Puerto Rican standpoint. Do not read the American one. So yeah, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, right? Unless you live under a rock, you know that shit's not true. And the US will never admit to colonizing it. That word makes us look bad, and we don't do that here, remember? We also refuse to leave. Anyway, Doña Isabelita loved her country, Puerto Rico, not the US. And in 1922, the people of Puerto Rico organized to stand up to the US. But why? I mean, the US saved them, didn't they? A celebration was planned for Palm Sunday, March 21st, 1937. Doña Isabelita was a teacher and a social worker with no plans to attend, but that day changed her forever. The people had gotten all the right permits. Everything was on the up and up. But the U.S. appointed governor of Puerto Rico, dumbass last name of Winship, had infiltrated resistance forces, and he had plans to put down any revolution. So that Palm Sunday, yeah, that was his opportunity. Lots of people showed up, families, couples. The atmosphere was celebratory. There was going to be a peaceful protest, but we all know only politicians get to decide what's peaceful. Am I right? Winship pulled the permits the morning of the celebration. Then he sent his forces to surround the event for protection. And they opened fire. For 15 minutes, chaos. It was said there was no escape. More than 200 were wounded. Many were disfigured for life. Dozens were dead, including at least one child. Winship said, nope, they started it. They fired first. It was self-defense. Except examination of the bodies proved that they were shot in the back. They weren't armed. And it's today remembered as the Ponce Massacre. Soon after that, the U.S. helped convince people that talking shit about the U.S. was not okay. Things like having a Puerto Rican flag were declared illegal. So Doña Isabelita became illegal. She carried a flag in her fucking purse everywhere she went. Because fuck your feelings. Doña Isabelita became a warrior, a leader in the resistance at a time when women generally weren't allowed to do that because machismo. But she showed up in FBI files, proving she was pretty high up in the ranks, too. She was arrested at least 3 times and spent more than 11 years in prison under a law that was later declared unconstitutional. Conveniently later. While in prison, though, she put her degrees to good use. She fought for prison reform, taught the women who were there with her, and every time she was released, she went right back to being illegal. One of her notable arrests was in 1954. The resistance decided to follow the example that Winship had set for them. They visited Congress and opened fire while an immigration bill was being debated. Yeah, but no one is supposed to pay attention and use the example set by the US. That's just fucking rude. Probably her most famous arrest, though, came during another peaceful protest against the US Navy's presence in Puerto Rico. At the time, she was 72 and unarmed, and thrown down face first into the sand on the beach where the protest took place, while a white woman MP kneeled on her back. But hey, reasonable force if it's brown skin, right? At any rate, no matter how many times she was arrested, beaten, or discredited, she never stopped fighting for a free Puerto Rico, even through her 108th year of life. Yeah, I confirmed it because, yeah. When she was too old to attend protest events, she instead told the story of her life and her people to anyone who would listen. One person said that talking to her was an engaging lesson in national history, and I wish I could have talked to her. She's another that's remembered as a national hero. And at her funeral, Rafael Cancel Miranda said she triumphed because they were never able to bring her to her knees. Now, just my final thoughts at the end of this. maybe each of us should take some inspiration from the three women I just talked about and from all of our foremothers, the women who have shown us what to do and how to do it, the women who didn't let men tell them their worth, the women who refused to get on their knees. And don't you think it's about time for the rest of us to follow their example, to finally stand the fuck up against the patriarchy and tell the fuckheads in charge what we really mean? Fuck your feelings. Sorry, I got a little pissed off.
No, I was here for it. Yes. Fuck your feelings, honestly. That, I mean, it's so funny that that's a rallying cry for the right. They're always like, there's like, fuck your feelings. No, fuck your feelings, bitch. You know, like all of your big feelings about women, all of your big feelings about trans people and where we piss, all of your big feelings about the border invasion and you know the brown people and everything. Fuck your feelings. Literally fuck your feelings, and especially when you underestimate a badass bitch.
Hell yes, no matter her age.
Yes, I love stories like this because these are the stories that they do not get told. They're strictly stuck to the oral traditions and passed along writings of women who they really hope that you never read.
Mhm.
They really
Yes.
hope that you never get these stories because then they might not be able to say, "Well, women are weak.
Yeah. Well,
Women are
and
not strong."
something that I say a lot, and I have been imploring people to pay attention to language more, but I read a quote, I wish I could find the person who said it, but she had said that legends are not written about insignificant people. So if you somebody says that a woman was a legend, dig deeper because she
Mhm.
probably was a legend because she did great things, but dudes didn't like that. So dig
Yeah.
deeper. A legend is always based in fact. Don't just take it as oh it's fiction.
I had a conversation with a man, quote unquote, today, not today, but a couple of days ago on TikTok debates, and he was talking so much about how women could, you know, if there was a woman fighting a man, obviously the man would win. I'm like, bro,
No.
just like, bro, all I have to do is thump you in the balls, and you're going down. You're crumbling like you're folding like a fitted sheet. Like you're just you know, whereas women can push an 8 pound watermelon out of theirs and be back in action in short order,
Whether we want to be or not.
whether we want to be or not. Yeah. It's literally get the fuck out of here with this men are stronger bullshit and that women can't do
Hmm.
anything. There's so many examples in history of women doing the damn thing. And by the way, for all you LGBs out there, if Marsha P and all of those girls weren't throwing bricks, your bitch ass would be back in the closet. I
Yep.
said it. I meant it.
Hmm.
Fuck y'all's feelings.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, if we hadn't heard, if you're just tuning in for the first time ever, this is girl power up in this shit, okay? We are women who lift up women's voice and talk about womanhood and do it loud. And you know, every time I tell people when I talk to them about this show, they're like, "What's Hurricane Girls? What's that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we are." Depending on who's here that day, five, six, seven women who are sitting around talking about womanhood and doing it loud. And we're doing it in a space where there aren't men talking the fuck over us. And everybody's like, ooh, I want to come on that show. Like, that sounds amazing. I love it. I love it that y'all make that environment for us. And thank you so much, Mary, for sharing that. So, we are still here with my little sis, Rachel, aka Nurse Kemp, who is the VP of Patient Care at Regional 1 in Memphis. Once again, disclaimer, everything she says tonight is her opinion, and every fuck shit we say here has shit to do with her. So, yeah, HR, we're covered, we're good. Um, but yeah, talking about women in medicine, talking, you know, about our growing up as well, because it's like honestly, I was sitting here listening when you were describing how I used to react, like I hadn't really thought about that, like how I used to look for the approval. Our
Like
older sister did that
physically, you
too.
used to look around.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Like, is this going over well? Am I killing here or am I bombing? And yeah, it's nice to not do that anymore. It's nice to not do that. But I was very much the opposite of what you described, which is you were like, I never gave a shit about how people were feeling. I gave too many shits
Mhm.
about how people were feeling about me and just about the acceptance to the point where I kept coming back and coming back and coming back to get the same beating over and over again. And the misogyny of it all is that I got the worst of it because I was the quote unquote boy, and I was supposed to be the great leader in the church. Y'all were just women who were going to have babies for some other great leader. And so it fell upon me to carry the whole burden of the church on my back. That's a huge burden for somebody who's not even gotten to their teenage years. Somebody who is a teenager who just wants to date the cute little cheerleader, the cute little freshman cheerleader. And then it's a whole
Whole
fucking
thing.
thing. Yeah, that's a story right there. 16 years old. I was finally allowed to date, supposedly.
But only
And
specific people.
and only women who were in the church, who were members of
That's
the
right.
church. And we didn't have any of those. Like the only other
Because usually our
teenage.
churches were like about 20 people and they were all
Right.
old.
Oh.
So I found somebody who I liked and who liked me, and we sort of sneaked around for a while. And it's just, that innocent teenage love. I was talking to Abby about it earlier this morning, sharing one of our songs and all that. But it was dumb. It was kids being kids, and literally the girlfriend that I had at that age, she was painted by my parents as a huge whore because obviously she was distracting me from my mission for God, a huge fucking slut. And she was 14. She's just a year older than my own daughters. My two daughters are 13, and I'm thinking of looking at them like those harlots are going to ruin some man's life.
I
First of all,
remember when she came to
glad they're
church
gay.
that time. Like she came to church with you that time and then it wasn't good because she wore shorts or something. I don't
It was
I,
just no, it
I
was a
don't
spaghetti
know why
strap
I
dress.
remember that.
It was a spaghetti strap dress. Also, she was tickling me in the backseat of the car, but that's a whole nother story. Um, don't tickle me, y'all. Um, by the way, Morgan's in the chat.
Hey,
Hurricane Morgan,
Morgan.
we love you. We miss you. We're pulling for you to be back again soon. But yeah, I mean, just like it's a whole thing, and that sort of trauma. And of course, I had to, I didn't know what to do. I was the first child. I had no examples of anybody bucking the trends, and then, I had to wait until Rachel grew up to see anybody fucking push back on it. And I'm like, shit, I wish I'd done that. Like I love that. I love that you're just like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, I want to like a low key want to do that, but I still kept trying. Still kept trying.
Yeah. High school, I just kind of stayed out of the house. Like I literally in high school, I was in every single activity at school because, then I could just be around like regular people and do regular kid shit. And so, I played volleyball, I played basketball, I was in the choir, the honor society, anything that came my way, math club. What else? Scholars Bowl, like it just anything that they wanted me to do, I was like, sure. Um, and then got a job and started earning money so I could, do whatever I wanted for real.
That's the lesson I want all of our girls to learn here. My daughters, your daughters, your daughter, Sim, Abby, you can take this one for yourself since you don't have kids. But just make sure that you can live life without a man. Make for damn sure.
That's my daughter's intention right now. So that's
Yeah.
good.
I love your daughter's energy, Sim, honestly. Your daughter's a fucking firecracker and I
She
love it.
is. She is. And, she just kind of, is constantly going through her own awareness of who she is. And I think over the past few months, she's just consistently started telling people she's not involving herself with men anymore. It's only women, and I think that's great for her.
I
I think
support
that
that.
that's,
Lord.
absolutely.
Yeah, my
Okay.
9-year-old told me the other day, she said, Mom, I'm never having kids. And I was like, you do you. Like, I mean, that your whole life might change later, but I support that.
Mm. One of the best days of my life was the day that my daughter, your niece, told me she's lesbian. And she's like, I'm like, oh, thank fuck, I don't have to put up with any of these snotty ass boys coming home. Like,
There are
oh my
definitely
God.
advantages to it for sure.
Yes, I
Definitely.
I said that before, way before Hermione grew up, and to my ex, and she's like, "Why would you wish that on her, that kind of life?" I'm like, I know it's going to be hard. However, no shitty ass boys. That's all. But
I think it's so amazing that she felt comfortable enough to come out at such a young age because I didn't come out as bisexual until I was 42 years old. And that was, or no, 40. I'm going to be 49. So it was only 5 years ago. So I was 44. At 44. And I knew
great.
it the whole time, but I was raised Catholic and you don't do that. That doesn't exist. That's not real. You're confused. You're greedy. No, I'm bisexual.
It's just crazy to me
Anyway,
that it's taken so long for it to become socially acceptable for people to try and push everybody back in the closet. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so much work has been done, and it's awful.
It's horrible to me. And I think that, growing up, my dad was gay. And so, one of the things I promised myself after watching his experience, and when he had passed away, like he still was kind of living in a society that wasn't accepting. This was before Massachusetts even passed, their legislation. So, about equal rights and everything. So, he hadn't lived to see any of that. And so I promised myself growing up that if and when I ever had kids, that I would not let them go through that. And I thank God that my husband and I laid the groundwork for my daughter. Like, we always talked about my dad. We talked about other people. I have friends in my life that are gay, so she had those people to draw from. So she knew without us telling her even directly, like, this is part of, society. These are your friends. This is your family. This is, and we have people in our family that are gay. And so, by the time she came out, I was so blessed for it to be a really short conversation, like the shortest conversation ever, and I can
Hmm.
talk about it because she's open, she's living her life out loud, and it was the greatest thing that, it was just a simple thing. She wasn't scared to tell me. She was looking on Instagram at somebody. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm looking at a picture of this girl I like." And I said, like?" She said, "Yeah." And I kissed her on the forehead, or kissed her on her head, and that was that, But yeah, so I mean, when you tell me that you were 42 before you were able to come out, God, my heart breaks for you because nobody should have to go through that trauma for such a long time.
oh, but my mom on Facebook said, "You're still my daughter no matter what." Yeah, fuck off. We're no contact now.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
So
that's
magnanimous.
such an amazing gesture. Oh my God, I'm
Right.
so glad that you could lower yourself to accept me as who I am.
Right.
That
We'll
that
accept
is
this flaw about you. We'll still continue to love you. No, fuck you. I don't need
Right.
that kind of love,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wish I had had a parent like myself growing up because like my daughter when she came to me my daughter has come out to me in steps. My stepdaughter Drew has always been she's just balls out fucking pansexual. She's in a lesbian relationship. Loved it, love it. But my daughter Hermione came out to me and she was like, first she was like, I think I'm demisexual. And I'm like, okay, fair. I think a lot of us are.
Mhm.
And then she's like, a couple of days later, she's like, actually, I'm ace. I'm asexual. I'm demi-ace. And I'm like, okay, cool. And every time it's a hug. I love you.
Mhm.
Whatever you are, I love it. And then she came out as aromantic. Um she's not into, she doesn't feel romantic about anybody, but then she's like, actually, I'm a lesbian. And finally, I'm like, you know what, keep it coming.
Right,
Honestly,
right.
these are great. Like, I'm okay with it, but I just imagine the reaction. Well, I don't have to imagine the reaction of my parents. I got it. Even when I was in my 40s, they were like, get out. Literally, the day after I got outed by the mailman, I got a janky ass eviction letter to get out of the house, and yeah, this is the day after. So that's the reaction of, hey, there's this part that's fundamentally you, and that gotta go. And then a couple of days later, it was, you can come to family dinner, but only if you dress like a boy. I didn't go to family dinner. I
Nope.
was like, fuck that noise. I went to Taco Bell. So I can freely say now that Evie's not here right now. Evie will kill me for that. Yeah. Evie is our resident Latina, and she does not like me mentioning Taco Bell. But just like the acceptance thing. Like, I know, and Rachel, I've watched you raise your two girls, and I know that there's nothing they could say to you that would make you be like, you're not my child, or I don't want to see you, or I'm gonna remove myself from your life.
Yeah. And that's exactly like my whole goal in raising my girls. From the time they were little, and they're 9 and, well, almost 10 and 12. Um, but what I've always told them is there is nothing that we can't work through as long as you're honest with me. And there is nothing that you could ever tell me that would make me stop loving you. So they tell me everything. And, it's, it saved my daughter's life. You know, the fact that she can feel comfortable coming to me to talk about things and the way she's feeling. Um, it's something that I didn't do growing up because, I mean, I had to hide stupid shit. Like Sheila was saying, you had to hide who you were dating, or if you kissed a boy that didn't wasn't baptized, or
Mm.
it was just stupid stuff, like stuff that most parents would be like, that's all you're doing, because that's pretty awesome. um
Mhm. And he
no,
could be baptized, just if it wasn't in the right church.
right, that's right,
Yeah.
only specific church. And it's just the stupid stuff that I couldn't tell my own mother caused anxiety straight into adulthood about just stupid stuff like that gives you anxiety, and it's stuff that shouldn't even give you anxiety. And I never want that for my children. I want my daughters to be who they are, make smart decisions with their life, and always know that if they're drunk at a party, they can call mom to come get them and not drink and drive. I want them to know that if they like girls, or if any of that, that's my child, and I will love them forever, no matter what.
I I feel the same way, honestly.
Yeah,
For me,
you're
it's
such a
just
great mom.
you know what? I should have pressed this button here, by the way. I'm gonna have to edit this later, but yeah. Um, yeah, that's for the Spotify. I'll be getting the rest of that audio from YouTube, but um, yeah, it's just creating that culture of safety, especially important. I mean, it's important for male children, but it's also it's so much more important, I think, for female children, for women,
Yeah.
for whether they're cis or trans, that they have a safe place to land. Growing up without anybody else to talk to, like I couldn't talk to the sister I was closest to because that was the tattletale sister, and the one who would report immediately back to the people who were gonna hit me with 2x4s, and just the safe space. And I think that's all women in the world are looking for right now, is a safe fucking space.
Yeah.
To know that if we go out somewhere, that men will not violate us, that people in authority will not molest us in some sort of way, to know that when we go to our jobs, that we are free to have our opinions and do the things that we do without men feeling like their cock makes them more expert than us. You know, that's fine. Like, it's not a lot. It's not a big ask, but every time you do ask it of men, they get really precious about it. They get really fucking, what you have more rights than us. Like, I've been in a lot of that where they're talking about what about women's privileges? What about women's privileges? Okay, what are those women privileges? You know what the number one answer was? The number one answer when asked of what women's privilege is was, y'all get to have more sex than we do. Like, I'm like, I beg your finest pardon, sir. Yes, but like,
And
yes, because I understand that women are not throwing themselves at your mediocre fucking ass. Like, like, yes, obviously I've turned down more offers this week than you'll get in an entire year. But yeah, and then the other ones were, um, they were, women get more consideration in custody cases. Right.
Oh.
Taking care of your children to start with.
Because they do all the work.
Right.
Literally
Like,
part of our bodies.
like
And the
you
worst part is a
were,
lot of courts actually go in the opposite direction now because of that false notion of, oh, we don't want to
Yep.
look like we're favoring the mom, so they will overly favor the dad.
Yes.
and it turns out to be, like, yes, he was babysitting on Saturdays so
Right.
she could take a nap, and that made him such a great parent. But
Mhm.
she was doing six and a half other days of work for it. And by the way, ladies, if your husband or partner ever, if you ever catch them saying they're babysitting your kids, please smack the shit out of them immediately, like hard. Like, yes, right, throw punch.
Yes.
We can say that. Yes, I agree. But just like, no, no, men, no. And then they were like, well, also, women can tell on us when we rape them. I'm
No
like,
shit, Sherlock.
yeah,
Sorry.
And hell, half the
And-
time, no, you can't because nobody believes you.
nobody believes
No.
you. Nothing gets
And when
prosecuted.
they do, they still blame you.
That's right.
yep.
That's right.
Yes. That is fucking all they can come up with when it comes down to it. They
I
talk
have
about
one. I have
women's
one,
privilege. Yeah.
I have one, Sheila. Women and children first. That's what we've got on the
Listen,
boat.
you know how many fake trans people we'd have if we were on a boat sinking. They're
That's the only one I
already
can come up with.
they're already fantasizing about putting on dresses just to be able to go in the bathroom and sneak up somebody's cooch shot
Yeah.
there. Yeah, no.
Oh no,
By
we're
the
just
way,
we're just going to vote on bills where we examine women's genitals before they can play sports.
Right.
Totally.
right, because we don't want anybody looking at our women's private parts. No. I mean, I could go down a whole road about that because I am literally just there to piss. I'm
Yeah.
not even there to shit. Like, honestly, I'm not shitting in a public restroom. I'm taking it home. Okay, I'm there to pee, and unless I'm in some sort of god awful way, that's it. And then I'm leaving, and I'm not there. I don't care about your daughters. I don't care about your frumpy wife. I don't care about, anybody else. The pick me you chose to be with you. I have no interest in seeing her vajayjay. I'm there to pee. And there's so many insecurities, I think, with men. I think this is all driven by misogyny. It's driven by insecurity. It's driven massive insecurity. If you catch what I'm putting down here, massive insecurity. Um, and yeah, that all has to do with women in medicine. Promise you.
Yes.
It all has to do because we don't go down rabbit trails here on Hurricane Girls at all. No, and we don't make unnecessary dick jokes ever. So
Every dick joke is a necessary dick joke.
I
Right.
Thank you.
agree. I'm actually a little
Favorite.
surprised because Abby, at least one time during a show, is like, I'm gonna look at my pussy now, and then brings her cat up.
It's
And
one
it
of my
hasn't
favorite
happened
things to
yet.
do. The shocking thing, let's see if I can let me angle my camera so you can better see my pussy. So, it's just
Yeah,
my
A little
pussy has
lower, a
been
little lower
pawing
there,
at me
Addie.
all night. My pussy's been demanding attention all damn night. But now
the
my pussy
great
has
thing,
turned their back on me.
the great thing about dating yourself is anytime you need attention, there you are.
Oh,
And it'll be right. It'll get done right.
right. I was about to
Right,
say,
right.
now there's a partner who knows how to finish.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. And trust me, it doesn't
When
get
he
any
just
better.
turned back. Oh, of course, little right. He turned his head back and meowed in affirmation, yeah.
Exactly.
Morgan says hi to the kitty.
Oh, hey, my little.
Okay, it's the
gonna move
second
my-
half of the
my thing.
show. We need the dirt
kitty.
on Sheila. We need the dirt on
Yes.
Sheila.
Dirt on me.
We'll stop talking about my pussy.
Now it's time to talk about mine.
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, I don't know what kind of dirt
Out
this
the
one might
list of
have on me.
questions.
Huh?
Break out the list of questions. I somehow come up with the
Y'all-
most random stories sometimes. So
Fire away. I'm just gonna sit here and be victimized by all of this here.
I'll ask questions
My
when we do the Patreon. I'll ask when we get the
Yes.
behind the wall, then I'll ask all those questions.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my
the
questions were all
bear-
about the medical field.
Bear in mind that we do have an age gap between us here. We just we didn't go to the same schools at the same time.
No.
But she does. I'm sure she remembers those struggling adolescent years when I was dealing with a lot of reactive abuse. Um, I One thing I can remember about Rachel here, and of course my other sisters, is that my mother would just kind of creep into my room, just come in there and just, I'd be in there doing something, she'd just be very quietly saying the most awful shit, just like picking at me about something. You don't love me, do you? Like you're really you don't have the proper love that a son should have for his mother, or you really you're not going to go to heaven, you know that. You're lost. God's not going to let you go to heaven the way you are, and just stuff like that over and over again. And I'm like, it starts out like, what, leave me alone. Just I'm busy. Just, and of course I couldn't not come home because then that was a whole production.
Little
I think
technical
Sheila
difficulties.
I
froze.
think she froze.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Sheila,
Come
you
back to
froze,
us,
honey.
Sheila.
Come back to us. I love the
Sheila,
look on
come
her
back.
face, though. I love the look on her face. That's
Sheila,
great.
come back.
Sounds like
Baby,
the
come back.
perfect
Like, Sheila,
time
come
to
back.
ask questions.
Right.
You got it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
There
Oh
I am.
no.
There you are.
I don't know
Holy
what just
moly.
happened.
You
Zoom
glitched.
Froze.
Zoom just said bye bye for a moment. I don't know what
You
just happened.
glitched.
But yeah, that's my mom. I'm pretty certain my mom's called Zoom and like, take that off the air right now. But yeah, no, she would get me to a point where I was fucking frazzled, and of course, being a teenager who didn't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex, I exploded. And then it would be like she would run, get my dad first, and then get my three sisters and rally the troops. And I was the enemy of the household for so fucking long. So fucking
Yeah, I
long.
kind of remember it that way too. Like, obviously I was 7 years younger, so I was like, what, in elementary school? So, I was just like, I just remember there being a lot of drama, like all the time. And I was like, I don't I don't do a lot of drama. Like, I just don't have that much um capacity for other people's drama. Like, now if it's fun tea and stuff, I'm here for it. I want to listen, but yeah, not the drama. I do remember it being, kind of a, well, I'm not going to use your dead name, but and I'm just going to sub she, but she's, so disrespectful and doesn't appreciate what we give her. I do remember that kind of thing. But again, I like, a lot of times I would just try and stay in my room and read Sweet Valley High or something.
Lord, you and the Babysitters Club in Sweet Valley High.
I know.
I loved those.
I
Oh,
was obsessed. I read them all and I wanted to be Jessica Wakefield so bad.
I have to admit, I low key read them too. Yeah, it's so funny because like when I talk to my ex now, the few times when we were friendly with each other, like I'll mention having watched a movie that she liked, like it'll be like The Devil Wears Prada, and I was like, you know how hard it was for 10 years to pretend I hated that fucking movie. I love that damn movie. But I couldn't say I like Meryl Streep.
Right.
I couldn't say I enjoyed 27 Dresses. Like, my God, what would I be then? But yeah, at Sweet Valley, I still have at least one Shira doll that I stole from my sister. The, I went in, found it in a cabinet, took it with me. Yeah, I have maybe a couple of toys that just swiped off of y'all
I don't
because
even
I
think
couldn't
I
have them.
have any from when we were young. Because we did have that one time, and I still don't ever let Dad forget this, but we had that yard sale, and they literally made us pick one toy that we could keep, and we had to sell everything else. And so I kept, at the time, I loved Rainbow Bright, which, I wanted my Rainbow Bright doll. And so I had to choose between my Rainbow Bright doll and my bear that I had from when I was a baby. And
are you shitting me?
Butterball.
I'm not. I sold Butterball, and they changed their mind right after Butterball sold at the yard sale, and I never saw Butterball again.
Oh my
And
God.
I
Sorry.
still I still remember that.
I swear, I remember that too. And I think that contributed to you and me being collectors right now and being like, I can buy anything I fucking want to. I'm an adult and I don't have to get rid of it. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like I hid so many of my toys. I got to be pretty masterful at finding places in the house to hide them because Dad would every now and again go on these sweeps of the house and just with a garbage bag start grabbing toys. And I, like, at one point in time, he threw out all of my journals and all of the stories I had written, all of the pictures I had drawn. I came back home. We had those little school desks, right? I looked in there and I was like, where's my shit? Because I wanted to write in my journal. And I had to fucking force them to go get the trash and put all my shit back. I'm like, that's my shit. And it was just growing up in just that environment, and it was more physically abusive for me than it was for you.
Yeah,
Um,
I never got hit.
yeah, I
It
got
was
hit a
it was
lot.
just it was more religious, like,
Mhm.
if you do this, you're not going to go to heaven, and all that
The
religious
psychological
pressure.
trauma. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
psychological
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah. And again, I was a really, really good kid. Like these are these are things that like normal kids do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's so normal, so normal. Like, oh God, it was things that you would just expect, like that our friends are like, eh,
Yeah.
and then the whole things about not being able to celebrate Christmas, not being able to to say the word Christmas for a long time. We weren't allowed to say that because I was taking Jesus's name in vain.
Yes.
Um,
Remember that.
So yeah, I mean, it's just we could sit here and have a whole entire volumes of shows about this kind of upbringing here, but as you can see, what's produced is all of us with therapists and mental health diagnoses, all of us with trauma, some with PTSD, some at least one of us is just gone, just flat out fucking gone, and just like you got here two examples of women who grew up in this environment. You have me, who I'm like, I am going to be the most fucking fabulous person that I can be. People are like, why don't you just slow down? And I'm like, why don't you just shut the fuck up? Like, I'm gonna be like, maybe tone down the makeup, tone down the hair. No, fucking hell. I've been waiting my whole life for this shit. And people have asked me about Hurricane Girls, even though we're a small podcast and we're just started. We're only 20 episodes in, and 22 I think now. And how are you getting the guests that we get, and how you got the people on the panel that I have? It's because I go out there and I handle myself like I'm supposed to be there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to ask you to come onto my show and you're just supposed to come. And so, like, that's the authenticity that I try to show, because I've been waiting so long to be authentic and be powerful. And I finally have it. And then you see Rachel, who is being a boss bitch and running everything, there, and doing all the things she was told she couldn't do growing up, and being an example. And I love her kids. Her kids and my kids are besties, and I love that. And they're getting to see the example we didn't get to see. And for me, there's no price you can put on that. It's just it's a beautiful thing. I'm happy. I'm really happy for the relationship that we have now.
Absolutely. Me
Honestly.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
We are running out of time here on the show, so usually this is about the time that we wrap up with final thoughts here. So I will give our guest, Rachel, the first shot at final thoughts, and then we'll go around the room here. No
Yeah.
pressure.
Thank you guys so much. I've had so much fun. I am. Sheila told me what time. I was like, "What time do you guys record?" And she was like 9 to 11, and I was like, "AM," and she was PM, and I was like, "I don't stay up that late." Like this boss
You
bitch
and me
went
both,
to
girl. You and me
bed at
both.
8 o'clock. Like so, but I've had an absolute blast, and it's worth losing my 2 extra hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and it's been so much fun.
Yeah, Abby is also an early to bed, early to rise, text Sheila at 5 o'clock in the morning sort of thing,
That's
which I
right.
love. Don't ever stop doing that. Abby, since you are also up past your bedtime, I'll give you a shot at final thought too.
And to echo, I remember when I first came on here as a guest and being like, all right, that 9 to 11, that's pumpkin hour for me, but let's see if I can rally this one time, and having such an amazing time that I'm like, you know what? Tuesdays are just my day where I'm just gonna be up really late, not get a lot of sleep, and it's gonna be worth it. And adding on as more the final word for the entire podcast episode, you can tell my brain is starting to like finally we can start to shut down. But no, one more sentence, please. The theme really is just the resiliency of women and the shit that is thrown our way, the shit that is designed to break our fucking spirits. And the fact that all of us sitting here and on this show now is a testament of like, no, honestly, fuck your feelings.
Love it. Sim, final thoughts.
I was so excited tonight to get to know the good part of Miss Sheila's family. She and I have become very close and kind of trial by fire, and had some heavy combos about things and what she's gone through, and my heart breaks every time I hear it because I just everything she went through, and to still be just the amazing person that she is. I'm constantly in admiration of that because it hasn't broken her. It's made her stronger and more determined. And I see that in you. I see that spirit in you and how you channeled it in your life. And through talking to you, I just I see I can't help but also see the irony that in a situation where when Sheila was finally able to come out and live her life out loud and had a lot of loss in that time, a lot of people shut those doors to her. Your relationship with each other flourished, and that to me is a beautiful thing to see, because that to me is confirmation that that was the right thing. Her living out loud and living her truth was the best thing she could do,
Yeah.
and you guys being there for each other through that. I couldn't want that any more for my bestie than that. So
Yeah.
I love you, Sam.
I love you too.
Yeah. Mary, final thought.
Abby took mine.
Oh,
Give it
But
back,
I
Abby.
did right. It was mine. It's like I was, I had my hand up. Never mind. No.
oh.
But
No,
I
because she
I
took my answer.
you're right. Well, but something that you just said, Sheila, actually like struck me, and I think it's why I fangirl so hard over you, because you just said, I'm going to be the most fabulous woman I can be. And that is an example I never had. And then TikTok happened, and I get to see this amazing, vivacious, beautiful, vibrant woman just being out there as a fabulous woman. And I'm just like, I want to be her. So thank you.
Be you, actually, too. So,
I'm
yeah.
so neurotic.
Yeah. Be who you are because everyone else is taken, is what I always
It's
say.
so true.
Is really
Yes.
true. Like, it's just so hard to be somebody that you're not. And it wastes so much time trying to fit into a mold that somebody else expects of you.
Yes.
So much. Yeah. And I appreciate, oh God, the kind words. I'm leaving with a full heart tonight. And especially, it's nice to hear the validation here, even though I'll take my own validation for myself. I love hearing it from other people. And I love, love, love my Hurricane girls, my besties, Hurricane Abby, Hurricane Sim, Hurricane Mary, Hurricane Morgan, Hurricane Evie, all of the ones that are coming in, and especially tonight, my sister, an honorary Hurricane Rachel. I am so thankful that we had a cancellation here, and you more than stepped in and filled up whoever that was we were going to have. So, um, I do have to close the show out, and we'll be leaving the air on GCPR.live here soon. But I do want to let you know that we are once again, we are being accredited by the Creator Accountability Network. If you have any issues, go to creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org and let them know. We'll fix it for you. With their help, we'll get it fixed. Patreon.com/Hurricane Girls. If you are watching here on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're up for it later, go download us on Spotify, Apple, and we're going to leave the air on GCPR here in just a moment. we will be going into conversations with T. Nathan over on that station. So please, if you're on GCPR.live stream, please stick around and support that show as well. But as we leave, we're going to give you a taste of next week's guest, who is, and that is not what I intended to do there. Sorry.
We saw nothing. We saw nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna give you a taste of Miss Emily singing "Hold Back the River" in this video, y'all. Let me tell you, this is powerful. So, for the Hurricane Girls, I am Hurricane Sheila Chappelle, America's ex-girlfriend, saying, ladies, chin up, tits out.
Love, love, rescue me. Hold back the river and part the sea. 'Cause I know change is the devil's breed. Hold back the river and part the sea. Wind, blow, go and spread that seed. Hold back the river and part the sea. Because I know the shore is a place for me. Hold back the river and part the sea. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Sometimes you gotta trust what you cannot see. Hold back the river and part the sea. I said hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Sometimes you gotta trust what you cannot see. Hold back the river and part the sea. Faith, love, hope, and charity. Hold back the river and part the sea. You gotta give if you want to receive. Hold back the river and part the sea. Trust though it's hard to believe. Hold back the river and part the sea. You close one door to find out where the other may lead. Hold back the river and part the sea. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Sometimes you gotta trust what you cannot see. Hold back the river and part the sea. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Sometimes you gotta trust what you cannot see. Hold back the river and part the sea. I said hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Sometimes you gotta trust what you cannot see. Hold back the river and part the sea. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Hold back the river. Sometimes you gotta trust what you cannot see. Hold back the river and part the sea.